Hey, what's going on? Podcast Nation, it's Jason Harris here, and thank you for joining me on another episode of Strategy with Jason, Las Vegas edition. Today I'm with a very special guest. I have the one, the only, the oh so famous, Miss Melanie Borden with me.
Welcome to the Strategy with Jason podcast. Tune in for everything you need to know to stay in the know regarding the automotive industry. Here's your host, Jason Harris.
What's up, Melanie?
What's
How
up?
you doing?
How you doing?
Thanks for jumping in the car and coming for a drive with me.
Yes.
We're going to have fun.
This is so good doing it in person versus doing it over Zoom.
I know, I feel like we've done a bunch of those, right?
Yeah, it's a totally surreal experience, actually.
It's cool.
It is cool. It is.
Well, hey, we're going to kick off this podcast with a little origin story. So for everyone out there watching and listening and don't know your background and who you are, let's start there. How did Melanie get started in this crazy world we call the automotive industry?
So it happened on accident, like many of us who happened to fall into the car business. I started in 2009, and I've worked in different atmospheres, whether it's doing business development, working for different tech companies. I also worked in retail, and then most recently, I started my own consulting business, Melanie Borden LLC. And so I've been in the business since 2009, and I tried to leave, and it just pulled me back in.
That's what happens. You try to get out, and it's just going to suck you back in. It just it gets under your blood, and that's just the way it is.
Absolutely.
So we're at NADA 2022. It's
awesome.
Crazy.
Which is crazy. It's 20. Do the last 2 years not count though?
I don't even know if the last 2 years don't count for me.
Okay, I don't think so because I was like, all right, I feel like I lost 2 years, so I should
100%.
rewind, and I'm actually 2 years younger.
Yeah. We're excited. We're excited to be back here,
Yeah.
right? Like, me and Austin were just talking about it. Last time Austin was out of the country was when we were.
How was that experience flying in?
It was great.
Yeah.
It was fine. It was easy. Like, I think it's people make a much bigger deal of it than I think.
Is it surreal for you guys? Because in Canada, they haven't changed any of the restrictions yet.
It's happening very, very soon. So I think the mask mandate goes away next week, guys.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. I'm sure you guys are happy about it.
Oh, we're very excited. But it's just so cool to be out here traveling again, seeing people. Sometimes seeing people for the first time because the last couple of years I've just been networking online,
It's
but
so true.
But this conference, this is cool. There are so
is.
many new players that I've never
Sensory
met.
overload.
Oh my God, totally sensory overload. How many football fields do you think that probably is? 4?
At least.
5?
I don't know. I got a lot of steps in.
I would say there's probably 4 or 5 football fields of vendors.
Yeah. There's a ton.
There's just so much.
But even the manufacturer spaces, they're like 6,000, 8,000 square foot. I mean, the spaces are, it's just massive.
It is very, very
It's
massive.
like, NADA is a little bit like Disney in the sense where when you go to Disney for the first time, it's like, oh my God, there's so much here. And you can literally spend an entire day in a specific area. And I feel like NADA is the same thing.
100%. You totally can. You can get lost just in going down one aisle.
Absolutely.
And not even get to the other 50.
Yeah. It's definitely cool seeing so many people that, like you mentioned, like you're meeting for the first time in person, but you see them and you recognize them from social. So it's like you already know them, but then you meet them in person and it's
I feel like there's a good group of, I feel like maybe 50 or 60 people that have just really networked a lot over the last 24 months. And this is, for a lot of cases, this is the first time we're actually seeing each other in person.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel that way. So it's
No,
really
it doesn't.
Cool.
It really is. It's what I love the most about it is everyone that's there is so passionate about the auto industry.
Yeah.
And I think that says so much about the industry. I think it says a lot about the people who are supporting dealers in the industry, all the vendors and suppliers, and everyone has the same goal, which is to help dealerships sell more cars. And I love the energy that everyone has in the conference. It's electrifying, the way that people feel, and everyone's just so happy to be here and to be together.
Yes, it is. It's nice to be together. So you've been walking around, checking out some of the new stuff. Any new tech or new systems or new solutions that you've seen?
I have to tell you, I saw this company called Matador.
Yeah, that company.
And I really, really like what they're doing. And they're very innovative. And they're bringing some new technology to the industry that we just haven't really seen before.
Yep.
I will tell you that for myself, I came to the conference with a goal in mind. And my goal was really retention for the clients that I have.
Yes.
And I will say that for myself, there's so many people who who I know through social
Yep.
and who've been talking to me. And I will say that I haven't spent as much time researching, the new tech that's available and just really talking with people who I just have never met.
Well, I think it's cool that you bring up Matter, because I think Matter kind of introduces a new vertical kind of in, I think, this vendor space. And we're seeing a lot of people kind of fall into this space. And I call it almost like operational technology.
Right.
Okay. So
Yeah,
it's not tech that kind of just sits on top of processes, but it's tech that actually brings a set of processes to the table.
Yeah.
And that hasn't really been the case for a very long time, right? Most of all the systems out there or solutions out there are designed to support a process that you've either developed into your business, right? I mean, here comes some of this new technology, and I'm seeing the CRM companies do it, I'm seeing website companies do it, and they're just like, okay, we want to be more of a part of the operations, not just a shield on top supporting it. No, we want to be in bed, in depth in the operations and bring trackable operational value, to a dealership's bottom line.
Yeah.
And I think that's cool. I get really excited about that.
I just really like the whole AI feature behind it, and it's very scary, but it's exciting at the same time.
Well, I think if anything, what it does is it elevates the dealership's ability to do more. Like that's what it is, Andy. And you know what, Sony? There are more AI companies at the conference now than I've seen ever.
Yeah.
I mean, there are more companies out there that just have the word AI in it. And someone was asking me today, actually, we were eating lunch, and they were discussing the difference between machine learning and AI. And of course, I was like, Kit, do you mind if I jump in this conversation? They're like, sure, who are you? And they look at my tag, oh, yeah, absolutely. Why don't you jump in this conversation? And I think dealers aren't quite sure yet. I actually don't like using the word AI. I got to be honest with you.
I think it's overused for sure.
It is, and I think it was prematurely used in the industry. Right? I think there was a lot of companies out there that were using it, 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, and it was at best machine learning. And, we really haven't, I think we're getting now to a world of AI. But I think what it is when people think of AI, I think of it really as more of just bringing these virtual workforce, right? These new bodies that can come into the dealership. In the dealership world, there are so many redundant processes that are just done all the time, and it's just can I automate that? Can I get some type of tech to support doing that? And how many hours can I extract from that and reinvest those hours into other processes?
Right. And I think so many people in dealerships are also handling multiple responsibilities and roles, and things are overlooked and things are missed.
That's a really good point.
And the technology that Matador has really helps with filling those gaps.
Well, it allows you to become the master of what you need to be the master of, not the jack of all trades. I was telling someone earlier today, I had this manager I worked for. It was a mentor of mine, but he loved calling people jacks. And he's like, I just have so many jacks around. I need masters. Oh, those are cool, huh?
Sorry.
I know in Las Vegas it's pretty easy to go squirrel. Oh, look at that.
It's so true. There are so many people here. I mean, I think it's great. But it's nice to see people just being people, we're all humans and we're acting like humans again.
Yes, you do get a lot of that here, for sure. Now talk about just people and socializing. No, I think that's, look, you went squirrel, I go squirrel sometimes. But let's talk about people socializing again. And I think there are a lot of things that we've learned about, or maybe evolve the way that we socialize online, especially around purchasing things and selling things. That's happened over the last 24 months that I'm hoping that's going to continue to stick. Look, there's a lot of things I'm excited about just going back to normal.
Right.
I'm excited for my kids not having to wear masks.
Oh, my kids, they just stopped the mask mandate where I live last week.
See, I'm excited for those kinds of things.
Yeah, my
right?
kids were like, Mommy, I've never seen my friends' faces at school.
Yeah, can you imagine, for 2 years?
For 2 years, and my kids don't. They're so young, and your kids are young too. They don't remember what it was like before COVID.
100%.
They only know masks.
100%. So there are definitely a lot of things that I'm excited about just getting back to normal.
Yeah.
But then there are some things that I would really like to see stick and stay.
I agree with you.
And I think the way that we have approached social media. There are many dealerships out there that really have embraced the social aspect of it, not just the media aspect of it, and that's come through, social selling over the last couple of years. But I'd love to kind of get your take on how social selling's evolved over the last couple of years.
I think that everyone being home, and I know in retail it was different, right? Because people who are working in a dealership, they weren't necessarily working out of their house. However, I think that what we've experienced is most of the world outside of retail was home. And when you're home, you have more access to your phone, and people who wouldn't necessarily be on their phones, all of a sudden were on their phones all the time. And I think that's why part of why LinkedIn, for example, had such massive growth in such a short period of time, and how the platform evolved, because all these people were normally in their office having conversations and socializing, and they transfer that to online. And they're doing that as they're shopping for cars.
Yes.
So their expectations and the way that they're purchasing has changed.
In a big way.
In a huge way. And that's why you have all these big disruptors that are coming into the market that are pretty much entirely virtual, and they offer a seamless experience from their app to the time the car comes to someone's home. Now, it's not always the most ideal situation, but they're able to adhere to what someone wants.
Yes. Well, we've let the customer kind of take control. Yeah. Right. We've kind of let them kind of decide how we can how as dealers we're going to sell to them.
Right.
Like I just bought 2 pickups, and I bought both of them completely via text message.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. That's when I got my car. I mean, look, I got my car through the dealer group that I was working for, but I did everything over the phone with them, and they brought the car to my house. And they took my trade, and it was so easy. It was like they did the delivery in between a conference call.
There you go.
So it just being able to adapt and be flexible and have these changes. And I think with dealers, I think that there's a big fear from the management perspective, is that if their team is going to put themselves out there on social, that it could potentially have a negative impact on the store, where that person might leave. They might go work for someone else.
Yep.
And they don't want them to have a voice, which I understand both sides of it, but ultimately it will help the store with bringing in more revenue. It will help create more awareness.
Oh, in a huge way, 100%. But, I think, I guess my concern is that we lose that, right? Like we've kind
that
of,
person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how do we maintain, I guess, that mindset?
I think supporting the sales team or whatever customer facing team, if it's a service team, and being able to have conversations with them and supporting them and encouraging it versus avoiding it, and allowing it to happen in a way where it's not a cohesive experience for everyone in the store. And I think that's the area where dealerships they're not thriving. It's that fear, but you have to embrace it. It's going to happen. And why not have it aligned with, the goals that you have for, align it with the goals that you have for the month, align it with the goals that you have for the quarter, align it with your inventory / allocation that is coming. Like, why wouldn't someone do that? Why wouldn't they have it aligned with their marketing strategy?
But it's just being proactive.
Yeah. And the consistency is really the area where I think that a lot of people expect we're going to go out and sell on social. And what they do is they are very excited.
Yes.
They're gung-ho for 1 month, and then they stop because they don't feel like they've experienced the results of social media in terms of customers.
I've been at it for 30 days. Why am I not selling 35 more cars than I was before?
That's what we were talking about earlier. It's a long game, and it takes time. And it takes patience, and it's in the sales world, it's not you can be hunting. It turns into that eventually, but it's really for farming, and it's really for building yourself and building your business and creating awareness for your brand.
Well, the first goal should be intentional connection, not to sell, but to connect. All right. I think you earn the opportunity to sell. Yes, you earn the opportunity to sell once you've actually connected.
being in the right place at the right time with the right message to the right person who wants to buy a car right now. And it's just the follow through. And that's the area that I think could be improved upon with many dealerships, is they just don't know where to start. They don't know how to follow through. They don't know how to be consistent. They don't know how to create content. They don't know how to create a plan. It's just, it's not something that the industry does well, because there's not enough knowledge about it. And that's why.
Well, what would be some of the first steps?
I think some of the first steps is really to set a goal. Like from an individual standpoint, if I was working with a dealership team or a company team, I would say, what is the ultimate goal? Is it to increase company revenue, right? And then you can peel it back a step further from an individual perspective, and I'm just throwing something out there. Like my goal was to create a name for myself in the auto industry. And I wanted everyone to know that I worked in retail and that I worked in marketing and that I love what I do and I was passionate, because I wanted to create a digital footprint for myself, which I didn't have pre-2020. So solidifying a goal for yourself and for the business is really important, because then you can have accountability and you can look back at your plan over the last 30, 60, 90 days and say, are the steps that I'm taking getting me closer to my goal? I would say step 2 for a dealership is to go through your CRM and to look at your customers that have been, any prospects that you have from the last 30, 60, 90 days. You have customers with lease renewals, and start connecting with them on LinkedIn.
Yep.
And I think that's an area that's really untapped that people don't realize. Anyone who is in any sort of role, any business, in any industry, or even if they don't have a job and they're looking for one, they're on LinkedIn. So all of our customers, and it's not just specifically to Highline, you have customers that are in every single range that are on LinkedIn.
Yeah, no, 100%. We spend a lot of time waiting for the customers to come see us. Right. We're not spending a whole lot of time seeking out the customers. And I love the fact that you bring up kind of like leads that are coming in. I was talking to someone earlier, so many of these leads are coming in are unsold units, right? So the conversation is actually about 15 seconds long. All right. Thanks for your inquiry. The car's sold. Done.
Right.
That's it. But we're just missing a monster opportunity to actually connect with someone.
Right.
And value comes through,
it takes time.
It does. But maybe that's the problem. Problem is it takes time.
Yeah, and the thing, I also think that there's a lot of people that are in sales, in car sales, that don't look at their position as something long term.
No.
And
it's like, how am I going? If they're not buying a car right now, do I really give a crap at all?
Right. And so I believe that if you can look at social media as a long game, and you're not looking at it just this month and not just this quarter, but if you're looking at it as the full year view. And just know that it takes time, and that it's not, even with an advertising campaign, it's the same thing. You're not going to run an ad, right? You're not going to do a TV commercial and then expect that you're going to have a huge wave of showroom 100%. Traffic come in just from one TV commercial.
It's not going to happen.
So social, when it's aligned with everything else that you're doing in the store, it works really well, and it helps create connections and emotional connections. And that's why, from an individual perspective, people buy from people. They buy from people they like. So if you have someone on your sales floor, you should embrace them putting themselves out there, because if someone likes their salesperson, they will buy from them.
Well, of course. I mean, and it's funny we're saying that, and it's making it like, oh, it's just so simple. That's all. Right. That's all it particularly takes. Yeah. But there is some truth to that, right? Like, why is it the only time I get to experience how amazing your staff is once I've actually done a transaction with you?
Right.
I've been on your website. I get it. You're a Honda dealership.
Right.
It's pretty obvious. The name on the building says Honda.
Right.
All right. The name in your logo says Honda.
Right.
But you're not telling me who you are as a business.
Right. Exactly. And it's funny because a lot of dealerships, they don't, and businesses in general, they don't talk about what they're involved with regard to philanthropic efforts. They don't talk about what they're doing in the community. They don't talk about their people. And I'm loving all these videos that I'm seeing on TikTok. Mm-hmm. There's so many, some of these videos are hilarious. And is a TikTok video going to sell you a car? It probably won't, just from watching a viral video, but it's giving someone insight, and it adds to the overall experience of going into a dealership, because you're creating that emotional connection with someone.
Well, exactly. And that's the biggest opportunity, right? We call this a people business.
Right.
We really do. Okay, we're in the business of people.
Lots of interesting people in the car business.
Yes. But I go to a website and there's usually one page dedicated to people and that's it.
Right. Yeah, no, it should be more.
Right?
It should talk about the culture of the store. It should talk about, what they're doing in the community and, making sure their socials are present on their site.
Look, I interact with a bunch of other brands, okay? And some of the brands that I probably follow right now and I've connected with, Purple Mattress, okay? You go, and their homepage is not dedicated to the product they sell. Their homepage is dedicated to telling their story and who they are as a company, right? It's like, I get it, you're a mattress company. It's pretty obvious. It's pretty obvious.
Yeah. And listen, I think right now the environment has changed, and yes, does pricing factor into someone's decision? Of course they do. Of course it factors in, but I think that differentiating yourself from another store in your PMA is the way that you can do that through social media. I mean, you just can. It's a clear differentiator when you see, a team at a dealership that's embracing it and executing on it. There's a clear differentiator between what they're doing, and generally the people who have the most reviews from customers and who are active on social generally make more money.
No, 100%. As a dealership, right, I think there are some great dealers out there that have invested in their staff's social brands, right? And then there are a lot of dealerships that are just actually totally terrified of it.
I know. Well, because the fear goes both ways, because there are some salespeople that are so scared to do it because they're afraid that they're going to get fired. And they're afraid that if they're active that they're going to lose their position.
100%. And I understand the fear, all right? But I think the value of investing in my staff's social brand, all right, and aligning my brand with their brand, all right, far outweighs, all right, what the downside of it is. I mean, yes, this does take a little time. Yes, you got to have an open conversation about what you say and what you don't say, and maybe some of your staff's social brands is not in line with your own personal brand, and that's okay too. Maybe not. I mean, actually, I got to be honest with you. If I was to go back right now and do the dealership all over again, all right, during the interview process would be me just trying to make sure that their social brands actually align with my social brand. And I actually probably wouldn't hire anybody that wasn't, Like I'm looking to kind of connect those dots. But how do we get that fear? How do we get past that fear?
I think the biggest way to get past the fear is, number one, to get educated on what it is that you're trying to achieve. And there's so many unbelievable partners in the industry that can help a dealership do that. And I would say number two is just execute. I mean, that's content and execution are really the two things that I see that slow so many businesses back from becoming active, because and the know-how of doing it. How do we do it?
Yeah. 100%.
How do we get started? How do we do it? And it always comes back to content and execution.
Well, okay, let's go a little bit into content, because I think as an industry, especially on the salesperson side, there's a bit of misconception around what content is actually worth putting out there. Look, people connect through content or see value in content for one of two reasons, either educational or entertainment value. It's either or. And in fact, or edutainment in some cases, you can combine them. That's right. That's right. All right. But it's got to be kind of one of those. I see way too many, let's call it self-serving content. All right, that really is not bringing anybody any type of education, not bringing any type of education or edutainment. So let's talk about kind of the content strategy.
Yeah, I think from a salesperson's perspective, they are the subject matter expert and they are the product experts for the cars they are selling.
Yes.
And if someone is in the market to buy a specific car within the brand that they sell, part of their content strategies should be around educating the customers about the cars like they would do in the showroom. And whether that's doing the walkarounds or talking weekly about, specific technology updates, or educating about, what happens in the service department and why you need to service your car at a dealership for that particular brand. From the content perspective, there are so many aspects. You know, when I remember walking into the dealership in the morning, going to my office, I would walk through the shop and you see the cars going up on the lifts. You see the service consultants, you know, interacting with customers, you know, talking about a day in the life. What's it like to work at a dealership?
Yep.
And what's that experience like? Customers who are coming in, who are purchasing cars, they're getting deliveries. Are you asking them for testimonials on video? Are you taking photos with them? Are you sharing their reviews and talking about what the customers are saying? And what is the brand doing? Is the brand doing anything? What's happening within the community? I mean, there are actually thousands of different types of content ideas.
Yes.
You could also focus on your customer objections, what they say about your specific brand. And you can create a content series just about what the customers are saying and do it either a video, or you could do a photo and have, you know, some text written out.
But you do it for the customer, not for yourself.
Right.
Like, the key to a good content creator is they make content for their audience, not for themselves.
Right. You have to serve your social following in a sense, and you have to create this, and you have to expect nothing in return, but just know that if you can do it consistently over time, it will result in business. It just will.
Yes.
It happens. It's a fact, but you have to show up and you have to start somewhere. And I think that's the hardest part, is really starting and just getting it going.
Well, it's just a matter of just pushing the button and going.
Right.
But you're going to be on the right track as long as you're doing it for your customer, not for yourself. Right? I think that's key. Like, I know we're getting towards the tail end of our conversation, because I see we're getting close to the convention center again.
Yeah.
But before I let you go, I think we touched on some really cool topics today.
We did.
And I think there's still more to be kind of discussed about it. So for everyone out there that's watching and listening and would maybe like to continue some of this conversation, what's the best way to connect with you?
The best way to connect with me is through my website, which is melanieborden.com. And all my socials are there.
Awesome.
Pick your poison of which one you want.
Melanie, thank you so much for taking the time
Thank
to
you,
chat with me.
Jason.
It's been a lot of fun.
It has been, for sure.
Thanks for tuning in to the Strategy with Jason podcast with your host, Jason Harris. Don't want to miss new content? Be sure to check out the full podcast library at strategywithjason.com to stay in the know. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Happy podcasting.